Hello. Today General Hospital will reveal the reappearance of Britt Westbourne in Croatia was not the result of a hallucination brought on by Jason's unresolved grief, nor was it merely a rating stunt to inject fleeting drama into General Hospital. Instead, it marked the beginning of a deeply layered and meticulously orchestrated arc that shattered the accepted truth and unraveled a conspiracy hidden in the shadows for 2 years. Britt, long believed to have died tragically in the arms of her mother Lisel after being impaled by Heather Weber's venom-coated hook, had never truly perished. That brutal scene, seared into the collective memory of fans and characters alike, was in fact the cover for a much more intricate and sinister plan, one that wove together WSB Black Ops, underground biogenetic experimentation, and a desperate maternal gamble from Lisel that would defy both science and ethics. Britt had been covertly placed in a medically induced coma mere moments after the attack, spirited away by operatives working under Dalton's directive, and subjected to experimental memory erasure in a top-secret facility. Her resurfacing in Croatia, precisely when WSB agents were pursuing Dalton, was not coincidence but rather the inevitable result of a cognitive rehabilitation protocol being piloted on her, following neurological modifications intended to halt the progression of Huntington's disease, a cruel inheritance from her infamous father, Caesar Faison. The mere suggestion that Britt might have survived would have been enough to shake the foundation of Port Charles. But the implications of what her presence suggests go even further. One increasingly credible theory posits that the woman seen by Jason may not be Britt at all, but rather a genetically engineered replica or even a long-lost twin. Such possibilities, long dismissed as soap opera fantasy, now seem alarmingly plausible in light of what's known about Dalton's biotechnological capabilities. In her desperation to save Britt, Lisel may have manipulated the DNA of her daughter or even uncovered the existence of a twin embryo, hidden or stolen by Faison decades ago. That child, raised in isolation and trained in secrecy, could now be re-emerging into the world, complete with implanted memories and programmed emotional responses. If the figure Jason glimpsed was not Britt in body but merely in mind, it would explain not only her vague behavior but also her fragmented presence. Hovering at the edges of familiarity without truly stepping back into her former life. Even more unsettling is the alternative that Britt never had Huntington's disease to begin with. Her original diagnosis, conducted outside General Hospital jurisdiction, was always suspect, opening the door to the idea that her test results had been altered with malicious intent. Among those with motive and resources to do so, Nicholas Cassadine looms large. Once romantically involved with Britt, their relationship fell apart when it was revealed she had stolen his sister Lulu's embryo. Despite moments of reconciliation, Nicholas had every reason to want her out of his life and out of play permanently. Faking a diagnosis of a terminal, degenerative neurological disorder would have been the perfect psychological weapon, cruel, irreversible, and ultimately isolating. Such a scheme would destabilize Britt emotionally and socially, pushing her toward withdrawal, despair, and eventual disappearance, all without requiring direct violence. But if Nicholas's hand truly lies behind this deception, then Britt's return may serve not only as her resurrection, but as the catalyst for the disintegration of the Cassadine legacy itself. Her memory loss, often dismissed as a cliché in serialized drama, takes on a much darker resonance in this context. It is not simply the result of trauma or mental collapse, but rather a side effect of radical neurological intervention. In seeking to arrest the gene expression of Huntington's, Lisel is rumored to have aligned herself with Dalton, the very man whose grotesque experiments she once opposed. Their collaboration resulted in neural editing treatments that destroyed diseased tissue but, in the process, damaged the hippocampus and adjacent memory centers of Britt's brain. The fallout. A woman who walks and speaks, but no longer knows who she is. Even Jason, the man who once meant everything to her, is now just another stranger in the crowd. Meanwhile, somewhere in the recesses of a secure facility, a backup memory matrix encoded with Britt's original identity may exist, preserved in case a reversal became necessary. But the reinstallation of memory is not a guaranteed salvation. For as Britt's original consciousness returns, it could bring with it everything she once knew. Secrets involving WSB's darkest chapters, experiments on unwilling subjects, and perhaps even knowledge of a mole within Port Charles. To recover her past may mean to endanger her future once again. Everything about Britt's return is a paradox. She is alive, yet not fully herself. She is a threat, yet a victim. She is a key, yet a liability. The moment she regains who she truly is, she could also regain dangerous truths, truths that WSB and others would kill to protect. And if Lisel is indeed the architect of this resurrection, then she may have already planned contingencies, sacrifices, and perhaps even replacements. For the question is no longer just how Britt survived, but why, and for whom. Was her return orchestrated to bring down Dalton from within? Or is she merely a pawn in a larger game involving the revival of the defunct Dawn of Day ideology, using bioengineering and mind control as new weapons of influence? As the pieces begin to fall into place, the figure seen in Croatia may hold the answers. Whether she is the original Britt Westbourne, a clone built to replace her, or the lost twin Lisel never knew she had, one thing is certain, her story is far from over. The woman who once died a hero now stands on the threshold of becoming something far more dangerous, a vessel of hidden truths and buried betrayals, whose mind may hold the key to the most volatile secrets in General Hospital history. And as Jason watches from the shadows, unable to act, he knows this isn't over. Not until Britt remembers who she is. Not until the truth comes crashing back with full, devastating force. Her return has unleashed a torrent of unanswered questions that ripple far beyond the surface of Britt Westbourne's miraculous reappearance. At the heart of the mystery lies one glaring enigma. Why did Lisel Albrecht, a woman defined by her maternal devotion, choose to conceal her daughter's survival for over 2 years? The idea that a mother would allow the world to believe her child was dead, let alone orchestrate the deception, defies instinct, unless the stakes were unspeakably high. Was Lisel coerced into silence by the World Security Bureau, her hand forced by the discovery of dangerous knowledge Britt possessed? Or did she enter into a calculated bargain, surrendering alliances, scientific ethics, or even human lives to secure access to an experimental treatment promising to halt the degeneration of Huntington's disease? It is no longer a matter of if Lisel had to pay a price, it is now a question of what, or more disturbingly, she was willing to sacrifice in return for her daughter's second chance at life. More ominously, a different question continues to take shape beneath the chaos. Who is really pulling the strings? Is the mastermind Sidwell, once known as a WSB strategist and Dalton's primary handler, now tightening the noose around the remnants of the so-called Britt project? His sudden re-emergence in Croatia, trailing Jason and monitoring Britt's possible movements, suggests he's not simply an observer. Could Sidwell be on a cleanup mission, erasing every trace of Britt's involvement before she recovers her memories and becomes a threat to the WSB's most covert experiments? Or, in a more twisted possibility, has Lisel herself become the shadow puppeteer behind the curtain? No longer the grieving mother, but now a calculated operative prepared to eliminate any obstacle, including Jason, Sidwell, or Britt herself, if it means preserving what she has rebuilt in the dark. Perhaps her years in the periphery, marked by loss and manipulation, have transformed her into something far more dangerous than anyone imagined, a woman who plays both victim and architect, mother and manipulator, healer and destroyer. At the center of this spiraling mystery is Jason Morgan, a man shaped by loyalty and loss, whose emotional connection to Britt remains raw and unresolved. For years he buried the agony of her death beneath stoicism and silence, but now, a fleeting glimpse in a crowded airport has reignited a firestorm within him. While others may write off the sighting as grief-induced projection, Jason knows what he saw. He knows Britt, every nuance of her posture, her stride, the flicker of hesitation in her eyes. It wasn't a hallucination. It was her. And because of that, he finds himself walking a line between obsession and destiny, driven to follow the trail no matter the cost. That clarity, however, puts a target on his back. The closer he gets to uncovering the truth, the more dangerous he becomes to those who wish to keep it buried. If Jason is the key to reconnecting Britt with the fragments of her past, then silencing him becomes a matter of strategic necessity for whoever is orchestrating this intricate game. Yet Jason may also be her only way out. Trapped in a waking dream, lost between identities and memories that are either missing or falsified, Britt is adrift in a version of herself constructed by others. If she is to break free from the mental labyrinth she's been confined to, it must be through something stronger than medicine or science. It must be through emotional memory, through the visceral pull of someone who once saw her for who she truly was. Jason is that person. Not because of romance, though that bond once defined them, but because he believed in her when few others did. He saw past the Westbourne name, the Faison legacy, and the thorny armor she wore to protect herself. He saw the woman capable of heroism, sacrifice, and profound love. If anyone can reach through the fog and anchor her back to reality, it is him. The tragedy is that Jason may have to walk this road alone. If Lisel is compromised, if Sidwell has orders to contain or eliminate, if the WSB's reach is longer than anyone anticipated, then Jason's quest becomes a race against time and betrayal. He may not only have to bring Britt back to herself but also shield her from the very forces that once promised to save her. Their love, presumed dead alongside Britt, now becomes a weapon, a means to restore her humanity, her identity, her will to resist. But it also makes them both vulnerable. If Britt remembers everything, she could expose secrets that would fracture institutions and destroy powerful figures. She could bring justice. Or she could die again, this time for real. Britt's return is no longer just a miracle. It is a ticking time bomb. And unless Jason can outmaneuver everyone else at the table, Lisel, Sidwell, the WSB, and whatever phantom remnants of Dalton's operation still linger, then what began as a second chance may quickly become the prologue to another tragedy. Only this time, the fallout won't be confined to a single woman's life. It could tear Port Charles apart. The return of Britt Westbourne has become more than a mere shock to the residents of Port Charles. It has erupted into a seismic event, reverberating through the very foundations of General Hospital and the covert world that surrounds it. What was once accepted as a tragic but final ending has been shattered by a single glimpse, a fleeting but unmistakable moment of recognition that could unravel years of lies, deception, and dark science. But what haunts the minds of those paying attention isn't merely how Britt survived, it's why she was hidden, who orchestrated her disappearance, and what price was paid to keep her silent. In the center of that storm stands Lisel Albrecht, a woman whose love for her daughter has long walked a fine line between salvation and obsession, a mother known for both healing and harming in the name of protection. Her decision to allow the world to believe Britt was dead for over 2 years now casts her in a light more enigmatic, and perhaps more dangerous, than ever before. The most disturbing question remains, why did Lisel choose silence? Was it truly a mother's desperate pact to preserve her child's life, made under duress and at the mercy of the WSB? Or did she enter into a calculated exchange, Britt's life for something else entirely? Access to Dalton's radical experimental treatments, long deemed unethical and outlawed by international medical boards, may have come at a steep cost. Perhaps Lisel surrendered confidential WSB intelligence. Perhaps she allowed herself to be leveraged as an informant, a double agent within Port Charles. Or perhaps, more chilling still, she agreed to hand over custody of Britt's body, mind, and memories to be used as raw material in one of Dalton's clandestine neurological studies. In this interpretation, Lisel becomes not just a grieving mother who saved her child, but a co-conspirator who enabled the creation of something new. A reprogrammed, memory-wiped Britt, stripped of autonomy in the name of survival. As these theories evolve, all paths begin to circle back to Sidwell, a man once buried deep within the WSB, now operating as a rogue agent or perhaps something worse. His presence in Croatia, always on the fringes of activity but never center stage, reveals that he's not merely chasing Britt. He's tracking every remnant of Project Britt. The failures, the files, the failed test subjects, and most importantly, the original. It's increasingly clear that Sidwell may have been assigned not just to monitor but to terminate the project should it spiral beyond WSB control. If Britt regains her memories, if she remembers what she saw in Dalton's lab, what was done to her, and how the WSB enabled it, she becomes a liability of unprecedented scale. Eliminating her before that happens may be Sidwell's true mission. But the twist no one anticipated is the possibility that Lisel herself may have given the order. Could the very woman who brought Britt into the world now stand ready to take her out if she poses a greater risk alive than dead? Has Lisel, in her quest to master the forces that once destroyed her family, finally become the architect of something monstrous, prepared to manipulate, recondition, or even kill her own daughter if it means preserving the illusion of control? It is no longer a stretch to believe that Lisel's actions are not guided solely by love but by obsession with dominance over death, over legacy, over the very boundaries of identity and memory. If Britt's existence threatens to destroy the fragile web Lisel has spun to protect her secrets, then the greatest danger to Britt's life may not be the WSB or Sidwell, it may be her mother. And then there is Jason Morgan. Haunted, wounded, and yet doggedly determined, he emerges as the one variable the orchestrators of this scheme did not account for. Jason is not just another bystander shaken by Britt's return. He is the sole figure who knew, without confirmation, without evidence, that the woman in Croatia was her. It was more than a hunch. It was instinct sharpened by love, memory, and a bond forged in blood, danger, and sacrifice. That split-second connection at the airport was enough to awaken something dormant in him, a drive to find her, to save her, to piece together the truth no matter the cost. But Jason, as always, is not just acting as a rescuer. He is a threat. He is a former enforcer with connections to Sunny, a man feared in both legal and criminal circles, and he has no allegiance to the WSB or anyone within its orbit. His pursuit of the truth makes him a target. And his refusal to back down ensures that he is already being watched, and marked. What makes Jason uniquely dangerous is not simply his skills, but the emotional leverage he holds. If anyone can reach through the layers of memory manipulation, synthetic emotional grafting, and psychological conditioning, it is Jason. He holds the emotional blueprint to Britt's authentic self, the woman before the hook, before the coma, before the experiments. He alone can awaken her not with science, but with familiarity, with presence, with unwavering certainty that she was, and still is, someone worth saving. But what Jason doesn't yet know is that his proximity to the truth might not only endanger Britt, it might endanger him. If he stirs her memory too early, before the WSB can secure their loose ends, he could trigger a defensive strike from those who consider Britt's amnesia their final layer of defense. Jason's search, already perilous, becomes a race against time. He is no longer simply hunting a woman, he is navigating a battlefield of hidden agendas. Lisel's silence is a wall he cannot breach. Sidwell's presence is a shadow he cannot escape. And Britt herself is a locked vault whose key may lie within Jason's own memories of her. He must remember what she told him, her fears, her hopes, her pain, in order to restore them to her. And even then, he must be prepared for the reality that Britt's memories may be corrupted, fragmented, or even entirely rewritten. He must prepare for the possibility that bringing her back may mean reliving her trauma, and that the woman who emerges from this crucible may no longer be the one he loved. This is no longer a story about resurrection. It is a story about identity, control, and the ethics of reinvention. Who owns a memory? Who defines a life? If Britt was reprogrammed, if her personality has been overwritten, is the return of her former self a rescue or a violation? These are the questions General Hospital now dares to ask in the wake of Britt's return. And every moment Jason inches closer to her, the closer he draws to those questions, and the more likely it becomes that someone, perhaps even Jason himself, will not survive the answers. Britt's reappearance is a reckoning. It is a confrontation with all the lies Port Charles has swept under the rug. It is a war between science and soul, between truth and survival. And as Jason prepares to risk everything to bring her home, the world she returns to may be unrecognizable, hostile, and treacherous. The people she once trusted may now be enemies. The woman she once was may no longer exist. And the man who never stopped loving her may have to choose between restoring her past and protecting her future. Because Britt Westbourne has come back from the dead, but at what cost, and for how long, no one yet knows. The story of Britt Westbourne's return is not merely a dramatic twist designed to fuel another week of heightened ratings, it is a daring, high-stakes narrative experiment that puts the very loyalty of General Hospital's fanbase to the test. It transcends the conventions of soap opera plotting, evolving into a bold interrogation of identity, mortality, and memory, all wrapped within a multi-layered conspiracy that stretches from the innermost corridors of Port Charles to the shadowy operations of the World Security Bureau. The resurrection of Britt is not an isolated miracle, but a narrative fulcrum. Pivoting the show from emotional drama into the realm of speculative science fiction, without ever sacrificing the character-driven core that anchors the series. Through the lens of her story, GH is challenging its own mythology, forcing viewers to reconsider everything they thought they knew about life, death, and the authenticity of the people they've followed for decades.